G'day guys, good to see you again. This episode I'm going to talk all about how I used the formula from the book 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss to build a multi-million-dollar business over 5 years. So it wasn't a fast process, it wasn't an easy process at all, but it's a step-by-step process you can go through. That's basically a blueprint in this book to make a business work. Now this will also work for side hustles, main businesses, even if you have a job and you just want to be more efficient at work, this book is the absolute Bible for that. I actually normally hate self-help books because I think they're a whole bunch of bullshit for people who can't get their shit together in life. But this is actually actionable steps on how to improve certain processes within your life. Tim Ferriss is a notorious self-experimenter. Everything in his book 4-Hour Workweek, 4-Hour Body, 4-Hour Chef, 4-Hour the other one I can't remember, are experiments he's pulled on himself. It's really good to do self-experimentation. As a matter of fact, MoneyCat is an experiment for me about how to YouTube and present better. If you like what I'm doing, make sure to subscribe and like and comment on your thoughts below. Subscriptions actually really help me improve my user base and get more visibility in YouTube so I can make more videos for you. So, let's get into this. 4-Hour Workweek is probably the most important book I've ever read for business. Now, this came about because I was leaving ANZ, which is a large commercial bank, when I was about 24, 25 years old, because I wanted to start businesses myself. One of my friends at the time, well, he's still my friend. I shouldn't say he's my friend at the time. Sorry, Kurt. Recommended I read 4-Hour Workweek because he'd run a bunch of successful businesses himself based off this. So I picked up a copy and now I try to read it every year. Look at all the notes and all the junk in this. That's how much value is in this book. I should get a clip for selling this book. That's how much I go on about this book, but it's actually really, really useful. So what I'm going to do is give a brief outline of the business, then I'm going to go through the 4 key components within the book and how to apply them to your life. In 2014, my friend and I decided we'd start a business. Now, we had some key goals we set up and thought about before we started the business. What we wanted to do was not be like every other business goal, which is start a business, make as much money as possible. That's fine for some people, but we're lazy and we really like our lifestyle. So we wanted to make sure our business was efficient as possible, we could work anywhere, and that it was a business that was scalable easily. Because one of the things I mentioned in a lot of other episodes is if what you're trying to do isn't scalable, then you hit this hurdle at a certain point where you can't grow anymore and you basically kneecap yourself. So I'm not going to say building this business was easy or fast because it was neither of those things. It took us about 5 years, but we got it up to a pretty big business. We had 30-something staff working across 4 countries. We did, can't even think how many projects a year, hundreds of projects a year. But we managed to keep a tight core team internally and run it really efficiently, which is what this is all about. So let's get into the 4 core principles in 4-Hour Workweek. So the first rule is definition. That is, define what you want in the business or how you want it to look. Without having a clear, defined goal of where you're going, you're just going to be drifting along, taken away by every bright, shiny object that comes along, which, look, entrepreneurs are notorious for, especially me. In fact, I have an whole episode on dumb ideas I came up with because I got distracted and didn't do them properly. So, one of the issues you can have in here as well, if you're employed in a traditional business or you already have a business, is it's hard to stop the bureaucratic momentum of the organization going in a certain direction, especially in a large company. So you have to be really disciplined with this and just carve out your space and stick with it. As I've said before, a traditional business goal is generally to get as big as possible. We didn't want that. We wanted to have a really effective business that earned us both good incomes, that was scalable, that we could travel the world with while we were working. I know if you've done anything to do with entrepreneurship or business, you'll see that there's a million ads online saying, travel the world, work 3 hours a day, make money while you sleep, trade cryptocurrency, and other obvious lies like that. There's no reason why you can't travel and work or travel and run a business, especially in this post-COVID world with Zoom and online. There's really no hard reason to be in an office a lot of the time, but we built this into our business from day one. Everything was remote. So I've talked about this in other videos, and I used a bunch of tools and systems in order to get there, which I'll explain a bit later. So after we defined the sort of goals we wanted in the business, this led us to conclusions about the type of business we needed to have. We needed to have high margins, scalability, really, really good systems and processes, and to sell a product or a service which would be able to be systematized easily. If it was something that was customizable and very difficult and bespoke every single time we had to do it for a customer, it wouldn't really work in this model. The other thing too is we ran our business with low overheads. We didn't want to have stock or an expensive office because that means you have to turn over more and your margins are lower. So when you're starting a business, think lean. So what we came up with was a business where we could provide a service to construction businesses via outsourcing that was scalable, efficient, and there was a gap in the market for. The second section is elimination. When you're starting a business or you're in your work or business, eliminate all of the random shit that doesn't matter. Our rule of thumb was, if it didn't make us money or keep us out of jail or we enjoyed it, we didn't do it. 90% of what you do at work is largely pointless. So that meant no pointless emails, no pointless meetings, everything was as fast as possible. The other thing we did was, in order to eliminate all of this pointless bureaucracy, we empowered our staff to make decisions. What that means is, as an example, one of our managers, if there was a decision that needed to be made that was under $500, they were empowered to just make it. Then when we looked at the decision after, if it was right, we'd be like, good work. If it was wrong, we'd be like, you probably should have done it this way. But at the end of the day, it was $500, so it wasn't a huge deal. That's better than 2 days of paralysis and indecision by everyone else. So in terms of our branding as well, when we started the business, we literally got a logo made for $50 and built a website in Squarespace, linked up MailChimp, and just started trying to email and contact people. That's all we did. The business scaled to 6 figures from that. When you're doing a business to business type operation, which is what we had, you don't need to invest heavily in a big, heavy brand at the start. You can just go light and give it a go. The other thing we did was we weren't exactly sure what the market would want. So we actually launched 3 or 4 different products initially to see what people would want. And overwhelmingly, there was one product everyone wanted all the time, and another product people used sort of half of the time. So after about 6 or 9 months, we cut the rest of the products completely to focus on these 2 things that we did well. So what this is the philosophy of fail fast. We threw those out there, we saw they weren't working, we killed them, we moved on. We didn't try to drag them out because it felt good having more products. So now we're up to the meaty part of the business, automation. If you look at a lot of large corporations these days, there is just this entire layer of middle management that doesn't need to exist. It can all be automated and should just be gotten rid of. Sorry, middle managers, you need to go get jobs somewhere else or be talented or something. Because at the moment, that layer of bureaucracy is killing your business. We had a tech stack that we used, which I'm happy to share, which will go through exactly how we kept everything running. So, system 1, we use Slack for all messaging and communication that wasn't legally binding. So chats in groups, chats with people, chats between business partners, anything like that happened in Slack. If it was an official customer notification, we would do that via email, or some sort of official notice between us, email. Everything else stays in Slack. The second thing we did was have one central Google Drive that was organized with accesses for various people. This meant documents got sent in and uploaded once and shared amongst people. There wasn't emailing back and forth, stuff didn't get lost, it sat in one place and everyone could see the versioning of it so they knew who'd opened it and what had been done. The other thing we did was we used accounting software called XERO to do all our invoicing and reconciliations. If you're not using a product like XERO with a small to medium business, frankly, you're an idiot or you haven't learned about it. It's by far the best accounting system that exists, and it saves everyone hours and hours a week. So get on that and look at it. You can also automatically feed billing information in and payment information in. For international payments, we used a system called TRANSFERWISE to send money to people. We'd used PayPal before, but TRANSFERWISE was cheaper and easier to do a batch of 25 or 30 pays every 2 weeks. It was also super cheap and super efficient. So I guess what I'm saying with all of these things is, depending on what your business is, there's all this software out there that you can cobble together to make a really, really elegant solution in order to run your business. The next point that we did is we use virtual assistants for a lot of our tasks. Secondly, we empowered the virtual assistants to make decisions on things. There's no point in having a virtual assistant in your business if you're not going to leverage their skill. If you don't trust your virtual assistant, hire another virtual assistant you do trust, because you haven't hired properly if you don't trust your staff to empower them. So most of the information came into virtual assistants who allocated it out and managed all this stuff, so we didn't have to deal with it. Again, we made sure they were empowered and accountable to make decisions, so if an issue got to us, it was serious enough that it was worth our time. This comes into my 4th point, and the 4th key topic in the book, which is liberation. That is, liberate yourself from the day-to-day minutiae of the business. So this means that most decisions get made by other staff if they're under a certain threshold, and if there's issues or it's the wrong decision, hold everyone accountable for it, learn the lessons, and move on. Then you end up with this body of knowledge within the business of how to make most business decisions. When we actually started this business, it was 2014, I was working on a consulting project in the States, and my business partner was at the Soccer World Cup in South America and Brazil. And we still ran a business with customers in Australia within our first, 4 months of operating. So it's inherently doable through digital programs. It's not an issue at all. It's really a psychological thing people have, that they have to be in the same place to do stuff, that I think COVID shattered a bit, to be honest. I will say, however, there are a few key tasks that we held on to. I always held on to invoicing, banking, and paying of staff so I could keep my finger on the pulse of the business, and my business partner always hung on to a high level of quality assurance to ensure that our product didn't decline over time. These principles I've mentioned, which are definition, elimination, automation, and liberation, work together in order to make your business far more efficient. So you could do this for a side hustle, you could do this in your job. Go through and just think of things you can change and processes you can change. And remember, even if you try something that doesn't work, you can always go back. No one's died from you missing an email. Well, I mean, people might have died. I mean, if you're a paramedic, answer your phone. But like, if you're just some random accountant, it really doesn't matter if it's a day late or not. That's my point. Don't be scared to try new things. And honestly, read this book. I can't recommend it enough, and I'm still waiting for Tim Ferriss to pay me, but he does not.